5 a.m. I'm up with a crisp Celsius energy drink. Running 12 miles today. Grab a green juice, quick change, and head to work. Meetings, workshops. One more Celsius, no slowing down. Working late, but obviously still meeting the girls for a little dancing. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
This message may be shocking to many millennials. If you are one, you might want to sit down. Right now, loads of people are searching the following on Depop. Low-rise jeans, halter top, velour tracksuit, puka shell necklace, disc belt. You likely placed these in the dark of your closet in 2004, never to be seen again. But if you can find it in yourself to dust them off, there are a lot of people who will give you money for them. Sell on Depop, where taste recognizes taste.
TaxAct can think of a million things more fun than filing taxes. TaxAct is going to name some now. Sitting in traffic. Folding a fitted bedsheet. Listening to your coworker talk about his fantasy team. Digging a hole. Digging an even larger hole next to that original hole. Unfortunately, TaxAct's filing software can't make taxes fun. But TaxAct can help you get them done. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
This week on the SRC podcast, we cover all things round 3 of the SRC Cup and teach you how to overturn a halftime deficit. Keep listening. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the SRC podcast. Joining me, Big M, as always, the one and only Double R, Mr. Rob Rees. Good evening, my friend. How are we?
Yeah, still drying out, but it's fucking hammering down at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too bad, not too bad. I mean, I'm only like 6 inches deep in water when I step out the house, so I'm
Thank God who said water. Thank God. Hang on, that's got to be clipped, that is.
Yeah. We're not past the watershed yet. It's not last week. Less of that.
That's going straight in the group. I won't leave them in. Clip that for me.
So that I think Rob has just found his title for this week's episode of the pod.
6 inches deep.
So why don't we talk about some rugby first? Because round 3 of the SRC Cup has come and gone. There was a postponement in there. Pontypool, Carmarthen Quins did not happen. But the other game in Pool A did, which was Cardiff against Newport. And there was a running theme in all this week's games where the halftime score, well, it didn't give us much to go on, did it? So
No.
If we just look at this first Cardiff Newport, I mean, 12-0 up Cardiff first half. And honestly, from the squad selected, I thought Cardiff weren't going to put up as much of a fight as what they did, especially in that first 40. I believe Bailey cuts on debut, getting a try in the first half and a penalty try to boot, giving them a nice hefty lead. But then that second half, it was, we're going to be saying this a few times, but very much a tale of two halves in all these games. Newport come out and they just turn up and do what Newport are able to do, running 5 tries, 33-7, in the second half, finishing 33-19 winners. Not quite the 6-pointer, which I think they'd probably be disappointed with, before going into the match. But, given how it unfolded, they probably not as annoyed with that. They're sitting in a very, very good position now in this pool.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. So I think most of us, if not all of us, went Cardiff with the predictions, right? And then the team news came out, and I think we called Cardiff everything under the sun in the group chat because, rightly so, the fuckers named a second fucking string.
It wasn't that bad. Come on. It wasn't the strongest, but it wasn't the second string.
I've seen us score bloody Camoid and all them bastards name a stronger squad than Cardiff's team to play Newport. Throwing it away yet again. They lose a couple of games in a cup and pack it in. Honestly, they're fair weather players down there. Look, they're lucky the post didn't blow over, if I'm honest, for Newport.
Oh, wow. You really don't want friends outside the Airble Vale, do you? You really don't care.
Just attack people now.
Just the type of person you are. So,
The Newport squad was just too strong, right? I mean, I am surprised they didn't get into the game a bit sooner, but maybe that's a relative unknown of Cardiff and what they were putting together. You know, maybe Newport took it a little bit for granted in there. But as you say, puts them 13 points after 3, 7 points ahead of anybody else. And it's a difficult pool to call because you've got everybody else is on 2 games. Quins is on 1. Quins and Cardiff haven't got any points. Then you go to RGC and Pooler, who are on 6, and then up to Newport on 13. They're going to go through now, they will. Like, ultimately, top 2 go through to the Cup, top 4. So they're guaranteed a plate spot, basically. That's how they're going to finish. They're guaranteed a plate spot. So they'll be playing rugby now for the next 4 weeks. Well, 3 weeks guaranteed, possibly 4. And yeah, I just feel that this is a good opportunity for Newport because this pool now isn't turning into be the strongest as we may have thought it had been. I mean, Quinn's maybe a bit struggling for form at the moment. I know it was difficult to judge their cup run off 1, but yeah, I think Newport will be relatively pleased. And to wrap up the conditions with 5 points, yeah, I think that's got to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah, I mean, it has been in hell for the country for rugby these last few weeks now, and you know, there's no real light at the end of the tunnel when any of this rain or wind is going to stop because pitches are they're just not surviving the amount of postponements. Like, I know we get the normal postponements this time of year, but we didn't see this sort of damage in the SRC Cup last season, so it's been rather unfortunate. But talking about Pool A overall, I know you just run through it, but there 2 teams on 0, 2 on 6, and obviously Newport flying high on 13. It's opened everything up with the draw from Pontypool, Cardiff losing to RGC. It's really, really hard to predict who, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Like, obviously Newport, I firmly believe they do have it wrapped up. Although they again this week is going to be rather interesting when we come to cover it. But, the Pooler Carmarthen game getting postponed. I'm struggling to see that again replayed now, so that's probably going to go for a draw. I'm expecting 2 points each. I don't think anyone will be generous enough to give them 3. So it's very, very open outside of Newport. So 2 weeks ago, still a lot of play for in there. So keep your eyes open. And I'll be honest, the way it's looking now is not how it's going to look in a week or even 2 weeks' time.
Oh, exactly. I think it's one of those ones where everybody's bouncing around each other because of the games in hand. And I'll cover off a bit of a structure after we discuss Pool B, to be honest, because I think the layout of the Cup has effectively altered now around a bit of weather and how people are going to play games.
Yeah. So that's Pool A done and dusted. Let's go down to Pool B, and we'll start where you can have a bit of a smile on your face, but you don't get a smile for the first 40 minutes because, oh no, something happened that no one really expected. John didn't expect it. I honestly, probably 99% of Aberavon didn't expect it. So Aberavon traveling to Eugene Cross, sign a glass.
Martin, it was played at the fucking Wern, Martin, because of this insane fucking scheduling that everybody's rammed in, that we're forced to move a game to a shitty fucking pitch across fucking Merthyr fucking council estate.
Oh, wow.
No, we are. You can't park anywhere except for the fucking tiny car park they put in. The pitch is absolutely bullshit. The fucking first half saw fucking 2 ACLs and a fucking likely dislocation of a shoulder. The fucking combine it with the weather. It's like fucking hell.
I mean, I knew you were going to bite my head off the second I mentioned Eugene there, but Jesus. Not happy with the state of the pitch is what Rob is obviously saying. But onto the rugby side of things, Aberavon pulled out a performance that we didn't expect and we haven't seen for, probably the first 2 months of the season. To be, even though it wasn't at Ebbw Vale's home field, to go in leading at halftime, 13-10, is really it wasn't on the cards at all. Ebbw obviously named an identical 22, to the postponed game the week before. I think the only change was Morgan Rees coming in for Ethan Phillips.
And that actually changed. So Dylan pulled out in pre-game. Morgan came in at full-back, and then Ethan comes into the 23.
So it's still 22 of the 23 exactly the same. Would have been nice to have known that, but obviously I don't go to the games, so unfortunately I don't get to see that. Thank you for letting me know.
Blame a bloke called Jamie for that. He'd have run the Twitter. Jamie or Phil Steele, they call him Giovanni.
Giovanni. All right. So now we'll go to putting a smile on your face. So obviously 10-13 down at the start of the second, and still it wasn't all one way. Realistically, I'm being a bit pedantic by you, but a penalty try is the difference in this game.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird game to call, really. I thought Ashton Evans had a really good game again for Aberavon, and sort of led a bit of a good pack performance. I think the scrum really struggled for Aberavon when Ebbw brought the sort of replacement front row on. But up until then, it was solid. They give the line out a bit of a problem for Ebbw in the first half as well. So it's probably contributing in taking away the set piece, and that's giving them the platform to go in a tight game. And if you want to know just what the weather conditions were like, the photographer's camera was focusing on the raindrops when he was taking his shots. That's how poor the weather was. So it's one of those ones, even though you're on a plastic pitch, the conditions to play rugby in are just absolutely horrendous. And credit to both teams, they've given it a bit of a bash. I think, again, that bit of a strength across the squad, settling the set piece in that second half has really boosted Ebbw, and that's where they've pulled through. But it's one of those games where you move the game, from one ground to another. The conditions, you lose a player from the starting 15 in the warm-up or pre-game. You then have an ACL and a subluxation, is it? Dislocation, whatever it is, with a shoulder injury in the first half. You have another ACL or likely ACL in the second half. It's stop-start all the time. And when you have injuries like those that take a bit of gas and air in some circumstances, take a couple of minutes to at least clear the pitch. In those conditions, you're getting cold, you're losing any momentum and it's starting over. So for 56 points to be scored, I think is actually a good game. And like you said, credit to Aberavon. When they played at Ebbw, I know that might be a different story, back first game of the season or whatever it was a 6-pointer for Ebbw. And again, right, the game at Tag wasn't quite as dominant. So you can see the progression, because I'll be honest, Aberavon did lose it by a couple of scores in the end down at Tag, but they were closer, they looked more dangerous. And again, they've evolved and adapted yet again onto that into this one. So I think they'll take a little bit from this. I think the only problem for Aberavon is they're 3 games in and they're only taking bonus points. Ultimately, yes, this is a difficult pool, and they've played Llandovery and Ebbw at this stage, but Bridgend fixtures hurting them, and it will do. Although I guess you look at the wider table at the moment. Yes, they've played 3 games. Swansea's below them, no points, but only played 1. Bridgend are above them by 1 point, but have played a game less, and Ebbw are above them by 2 and have played 2 less. But if they can take a few points here or there, that Swansea fixture could be absolutely crucial to them getting a plate spot.
Yeah.
In reality,
this performance is really, thrown me a little bit on what my prediction for their game this week is going to be. But seeing as you were at the match this week, there's 2 players that I'd like to get a bit more info on. One that we haven't seen, one that hasn't started since that opening fixture of the season for Aberavon was their 13, Sam Matthews. He's a young boy, new in this season, playing 13, scored a try, so well done to him. And you had a new 10. Obviously, I know you've mentioned Dorian Jones has, left the club now for the season.
Yeah, it is because of his registration. Basically, he can't play. He was going back out to the States, so the land every game he was there. It's a bit of a water boy, should we say? But he's played his rugby for the season now.
Yeah, so you've brought in from the Dragons Academy Will Ford. So,
Yes.
3 conversions and a penalty, decent from the boot. How was his game? Because, this is a young boy. Obviously, I believe in he's Harry Ford's little brother. That
Yeah.
kind of logical sense with it. So we know how good of a player he is. So what
Yeah.
have we seen from the junior?
Do you know what I think? And again, I give the conditions a bit with this. A lot of credit, especially for place kicking. You're putting over a lot of crucial points, and you can see if he nails 50% of those kicks, they lose. You know what I mean? So that's the sort of the difference in games like this. You can see he's young. You can see he's very inexperienced. He didn't make any major mistakes, but you can see that sort of very similar to what Quins have seen this season behind the pack. A bit of trying something and it doesn't quite work, or a bit of a trying to be a bit more elusive than perhaps needs to be given the conditions, and just finding your feet, and you get caught out just a little bit then. But nothing major. As someone who's coming in on relatively short notice, and in a tough game, Aberraven had a really good opening 40 minutes as well to put a bit of pressure on him and around the set piece. So he was playing off back foot ball quite often, which is not a usual thing to say for an Ebervale fly half. It's difficult then because how do you judge someone and a bit of context? But yeah, no, he's gone really solidly. I would say,
Yeah.
and depending on how Evans' injury is now coming out of this game, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him for a good large chunk of time, if not the rest of this cap period. I know that land every game could be so crucial, but I'm gonna say we're gonna see the Swansea game played before that point. We may not. It sounds ridiculous, but you never quite know. But at that point, you start going, oh, actually, the league's going to be the focus. And I think that is for the club. I'll be honest. They've named a change squad to play the Swansea game that never was. The same again today, from their usual league sort of side. And you just get that feeling that they do want that league more than the cup. They can't. They can't spread their eggs across two baskets as easily, especially now there's a couple more injuries.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into it more when the league kicks back off. But obviously, we spoke last season about depth, about peaking, etc., etc., and we will get into more of that as this cup run and plate. We should not fail to mention comes to a close. The other game in Pool B saw Bridgend travel to Llandovery. Bridgend have played 3 games in the last 3 weeks. Including a league fixture. So lucky for them to actually get a bit of match fitness and momentum going, and it actually looked like it was showing. They managed to go 10-0 up in the first half at Churchbank, which it's not exactly an easy thing to do to really hold out Llandovery for that long. The only caveat I will say is this was one of, I think, only the second game that Steph Jack Jones has started for the Drovers this season. And we know the halfbacks at Llandovery aren't exactly the biggest anyway. Lee Reese and Johan Hughes, the main guys. I believe Steph Jack is standard like 5'5", something like that. So he's quite diminutive. I can't comment on how well he performed in this game or not, but the second half really told a tale. So 33 points to 7, it ended be in Drovers' favour in that second 40. And it was very much a case of, I think it was like the 49th, 50th minute, Drovers got their first try with Steph Jack still on the pitch. And then he went off, Johan Hughes came on, and another 26 points came in. Obviously, there are other factors at play there, but it seems to tell a bit of a story that Llandovery really need, one of Johan Hughes and Lee Reese firing, at their best to really get the best out of this team. We see so much talent throughout, but it's as though these boys are the glue, these two. And if one of them's not there, and especially if both of them are not there, then standards do tend to drop.
Yeah, I think that just goes to show the experience. I mean, we've just mentioned it around Will Ford, but somebody of your one's experience and of Lee's experience certainly, and working together in those crucial sort of like pivotal roles that you work off of each other, sort of thing, does make that difference. And I'll be honest, Bridgend, they'll be disappointed if they ever made more out of this game, because when you've got someone like Landevry up against the ropes, at that stage they're getting no points. They've walked away with 6 to go 18 out of 18, and you just get that feeling that is the direction. They've let Landevry off the hook. Landevry have taken it's taken a risk. You rotate, etc. Play your youngsters, play and I mean this in a nicest way, but your lesser quality players. You're not your first choice players. You have to punish teams when they do that, whether it's taking points off them so they don't get as many points as they expect, because Landevry would have expected 6 points out of Bridgend. And especially in those conditions, when you're 10-0 down, you're thinking, right, we're chasing the game by you. And again, the quality of the bench just goes to show. And it's disappointing because we said about Bridgend trying to put performances in, and what they did to Aberravon a couple of weeks ago, going, right, this is it. Is this getting into people? And yet again, they start quickly against teams. They've done it against Newport this season. They did against Newport last season. They get into a team. The Vale game was really tight down their place. And you're going, this is a good side. And they tail away. So I don't know if it's a fitness issue as well. I mean, they're not controlling games through that second 40. And again, it comes down to that discipline, both in terms of how many penalties you're giving away, but also in how you're conducting yourself and how you go about your business and playing smart. Not allowing the opposition to have that ball, or playing your exits right and getting your territory in the right areas of the field, playing your ball, because when you've got that lead, a 2-score lead, you've got to be able to hold on and utilise it and build from it. So they should be disappointed, I'll be honest.
Yeah, they really should. They do want to work on, because this is though the 2 weeks in a row they've done the exact same thing to Carmarthen Quins. I think it was actually 10-0 up at halftime as well in that game, and they just weren't able to keep the pressure going. And they were lucky enough in that. I say lucky, they were able to pull back in that Quins game and get the draw. But this one, it was a bit of a different outfit with Llandudno, and they really pulled away. I mean, looking at Llandudno, and their squad is it is ridiculous, and I know we say it all the time, but and I know these are really top. I know they're coming into becoming professional players now, but Josh Mawson, Harry Thomas, those boys started, but neither had played a game in like a month, maybe longer, and especially if we're talking just Llandudno. So, pulling boys in cold like that. I mean, they had Liam Tobias as a replacement tight end. And as far as I knew before this weekend, he was still a Bridgend player. So that was that tickled my fancy a little bit. But that was quite an interesting name to see pop up. But, we can see that the usual suspects of Aaron and Adam Warren, they're not in there. Obviously, Jack Davis is more or less full on with the Scarlets now. So that 15 shirt is really moved about between Jack Maynard and Kean Abraham. Kean is a player I really liked as well. But this isn't the settled sort of Drovers side we saw, go through to win multiple cups and leagues and really, really become a dominant force. So it'll be interesting.
The transition, right? Like, they lost Jack Jones a couple of seasons ago. You can sort of see players like Berry and Watkins, unconfirmed, but if they called it time at the end of the season, it wouldn't surprise me. Lee Reese is calling it time at the end of the year. You're seeing less of the players that are pushing through the 30s now, and they are trying to get that. They're playing with a lot of Scarlets, whether people like it or not, whether it's working or not. They're playing with a good allocation. And that's never been Llandovery. They've typically been the Welsh Sevens in the back line, 10, 15 years ago, run it through with a seven series, with the likes of Lee Reese and
it seems Rob has disappeared. He has been claiming problems with his Wi-Fi this evening, and it seems as though he's gone on this one.
out of the.
Hey, he's back.
Oh,
You
fucking hell.
disappeared.
This
You
is getting
disappeared, my
ridiculous.
friend.
A minute ago, I've lost you, and I've just been chatting fucking shit to myself for a fucking minute.
Yeah, you were talking about going back to the
Fucking fuck
sevens,
talk
etc.
Wi-Fi. It's nearly as bad as Merthyr's pitch.
Oh, he's really hurt. He's really
Absolute
cut up.
dog shit.
So you mentioned the allocation there. I'll just run through some of the boys that were actually, because they weren't a great deal. It was, Steph, Jack Jones, I've already mentioned, T and Sparrow at 7, Kai Jones at lock, Harry Thomas, Josh Morse, hooker, and loosehead. And they also had another loosehead, Tom Phillips, on the bench. So it's not a massive amount, but when you're talking last season, Josh Morse and Harry Thomas were solely theirs, as in they only played for, well, like say only played, they played like 90% of the rugby with Llandovery. So, it is massively different when you've got a proper transition player who is not there every single week. It makes things awkward, and it's interesting to see how it's unfold now, because you could argue these last 2 weeks have been the easier games, Aberaf and Bridgend for Llandovery in this group, and now they've got a week off before Ebbw Vale. So is it the way I would have probably gone to prepare for that game, knowing there's a gap week? I'm not sure, but only time will tell. So a quick look at Pool B's table will tell us that currently Llandovery are top 3 from 3 with 18, and then everyone else is just gridlocked. Ebbw Vale 1 game 5 points, Bridgend 2 games 4 points, Aberafan 3 games 3 points, Swansea 1 game 0 points. So, don't get me wrong, we are all expecting Ebbw Vale to be that second team, or even first place, depending on how that game in a fortnight goes. But first and second, even without the games being played, we're pretty comfortable saying that's locked up. Is just how these bottom 3 go. Who won't be going for a semi-final in the plate?
I'll be honest, I think a lot of this, and more on the positioning of the top 2, and maybe you guess that's the plate spot, depends on the Ebbw Vale Swansea game now for me, because that's going to be a Wednesday night. So it's either a Wednesday night in between 2 games.
Could be a draw. Could be a forced draw.
But the problem is, if they go for the draw, it's no good for Ebbw Vale, basically. That's the problem you've got, is
if you're listening on audio, please switch over to the visual on YouTube right now. This look on Rob's face is absolutely superb.
Head to head,
You cut out again, mate. I'm sorry. Anyway, you had a really, really lovely pause. I know you're not happy. We'll move on quick. This group, very interesting. The postponed games are playing a massive part. So give or take halfway through, like, share, subscribe, do the thing. Height might be a shop underneath if you're watching on YouTube. Avaganda. We had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry, I'm putting my hands up. So if it's great, we did it. If it's not, we're me. Okay, so if we go on to round 4 now, and hopefully we will get all 4 fixtures played this week. Something we haven't been able to say, this past week or so. And first up, we have got in Pool A, Carmarthen Quins at home to Cardiff. Now, again, it's a tricky one you've already touched on. We've only really seen 40 minutes of Quins in this cup competition. Obviously, they had the draw with Bridgend, which is kind of hard really to take, to see exactly where they are. And then Cardiff they seem to have imploded. Like, I know they do it every year. They bring in some extra youngsters through to the cup, but I honestly thought we would have seen them competing for the top 2 spots, not realistically, actually. They're looking at 4th or even 5th right now, just because of, that loss to RGC has really hurt them. They've now got to go to Carmarthen Park, see Carmarthen, they wouldn't have their tails up, but they wouldn't be tucked between their leg either. So, it's a really tough time for Cardiff, losing 2 games already. And I'm backing Quins all the way. It's what I'm going to do. I'll back him for the plate, though, obviously, because I'm hoping for the 3rd place finish and higher seeds in that, when a nice home semi-final and final would go down a treat. But, yeah, I don't expect Cardiff to come fully loaded, especially now knowing they're not in that fight for the cup.
Yeah, it's really difficult because Cardiff are the sort of team now that turn it around and just feel a really strong team randomly once. But I'll be honest, I don't know how to approach this because Quins have got their front row injury issues, which Newport took advantage of and will go from there. But you then have a Cardiff team who are still relatively strong, but again, changing it up on effectively a whim. I don't know which way to go on this. I think because Quins are a little bit less match prepped and have still got injury issues, I'm going to say Cardiff, and I'll be honest, we're going to go from there.
Okay, but the real question is, what is Bucky, the man that's not here, that should be here? He didn't give us a reason.
A draw! What? Hang on. Yeah, he's just shouting, what? He's online.
Another draw.
Another draw.
If this becomes a draw, I'm not going to be happy with this.
In fairness, I think he also said he predicted a postponement. So
yeah, he probably did know him. So now on to the other game in this group, and this has actually turned out to be quite an important game in where the 2nd, 3rd, 4th are going to finish up, because RGC are travelling down to Newport. Now, while Newport are obviously very strong, they've shown what they can do in their few matches in this cup already. That victory over Cardiff, I mean, I can't remember what was the score with them, and they ran Pontypool close at Pooler Park as well. RGC did, so they're not going to be mugs. I don't think they've got quite enough to beat Newport. Depending on what side's got. We are expecting Billy McBride back, obviously. That does need to be said. But will Newport get all 6? I'm not fully sold. I mean, it's going to be a fun watch. I think this is going to be probably the game of the round to really be. If you get a chance to go somewhere and watch a game, if you want, a lot of running rugby, a lot of tries, then I think this is the one for you. Get to Newport, watch Newport RGC.
yeah, this is actually probably going to be one of the best games I think we'll see in the cup. As you say, there's 2 teams playing good rugby. They play similar sort of styles in terms of they want to play fast, they want to play open. I don't think Newport at the moment are at a stage of playing some set-piece rugby, or not overly playing off it. The pack isn't in the greatest of form. But being in Newport, I just have that feeling that they are a different side at home, and RGC are again a bit unpredictable. So this is Newport for me.
So that's 2 for Newport. And what did Bucky say he was going for this? He believes in RGC, doesn't he?
Yeah, he believes in RGC. He's a North. He likes to see them do well.
Yeah, he's a North Walian at heart. You can see it in him by how fickle he is with his own team.
And anyway, it's not Bucky, it's Sicky.
Sicky, yes. Oh, did we get any?
Yeah. Someone said to call him Kit Kat. He's constantly taking a fucking break.
Hey, that's a good one. I like that.
Oh,
But Sicky it is. Is it Sicky? Bugger it.
Yeah, stick with Sicky.
Stick with Sicky.
Sam,
okay.
your suggestion for Kit Kat was shit, but so Martin said he's not going with it.
Yeah, he's not taking a break. He's pulling a fast one. That's what he's doing. I'm going to feel real bad now if he messages us and like half hour after this is done and gone,
Dead.
I've had an accident or something. I'm going to feel really, really bad. But no, I'm gonna power through right now. On to Pool B and Bridgend at home to Ebbw Vale. I mean, I'm liking the fact that Bridgend are putting up more of a fight, especially these last few games. Leading at half time in two of them, and obviously, actually, I can't remember if they were leading halftime against Aberafan, but they beat Aberafan at home. So what was it? Win, draw, loss, but that loss came against Llandovery, so a decent bit of form for them. But obviously, Ebbw Vale, 13-man mauls, is really hard to get away from them in this situation right now. So, have you had any news on Evan? Will he be back anytime soon? Is there a timeline on it?
No. I mean, I still haven't heard what it actually was officially. This is one of those ones, it'll be hit and miss. I just think they'll be wary overplaying him if there's
Oh,
any sort of
definitely now.
injury. Because last year he played through the final with a broken cheekbone, basically, because he was the only fly half available to them in that sort of big game. And I think, like I said, this is why it wouldn't surprise me if Will starts. There's going to be a couple of changes. You're going to see a change on the wing. You're going to see a change at 6 for definite. So all of a sudden, you're opening it up and going, well, we've got a changed Ebbw Vale squad who are, and again, it's how do Ebbw Vale play it, because there was still no news as of Saturday of when the Swansea game is going to be replayed.
Yeah.
But if they go Swansea this Wednesday, you have to factor in your squad. You have to factor in who's actually available Wednesday, because you can't say, oh, well, we'll rest you, and then, oh, wait, you're not available Wednesday. So we could see a bit of a changed squad, I feel, this week ahead of this game. And Bridgend has never been a great place. It sounds like they walked away with 6 points this season and last season from down there in the league. But it's not an easy place to go. It's a 40, 45, 50-minute slugger, a proper slobber knocker match. Getting into it, I don't think the conditions are going to help. As you say, Bridgend on a bit of a resurgence. Looking a lot more competitive, I guess, is probably the best word to describe their pool to date. So I would still predict an Ebbw Vale win, but I'll be honest, looking ahead to the Llandovery game here and probably doing Bridgend and Swansea a bit of injustice, but I don't see Ebbw Vale taking the full 6 points out of this one. I'll be honest.
Oh, that's really interesting to see, because I'm having a quick look at your squads, but and even though you've lost Evan for however long it will eventually be, you've got a lot of experience that has returned in Jonathan Evans at 9. Obviously he was on the bench for the postponed Swansea game, but actually made his comeback, against Aberafan. Obviously he's a Pro 12 winner from with the Scarlet. So there's so much experience, with him alone. And just looking at the rest of your squad, obviously your backline, you can do a little bit of tinkering, but you've got a full different pack that you could swap it to. I mean, I'm literally the difference between the Cardiff game and this game. It's a completely different starting pack. So obviously, depending on availability, you can still put out, even chopping and changing, 2 very good squads.
Yeah, and I think that's just it. I think John's coming, his return is absolutely crucial. One, because of the loss of experience of Dorian in the back line, but also, they say Griff looks like he might be done for the season after coming off against Cardiff a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, I'll be honest, like, you're down, like, there's effectively 4 scrum halves in the squad, right? But then, all of a sudden, Griff goes down, you're down to 2. So then you're, all right, John's back, you back up to 3, and you've got the experience that you lose in Dorian. So I do think you need a bit of a calm head there, because Ewan's not going to be playing on the wing this week, and he's been banging in the tries. So it wouldn't surprise me then if they play Morgan Rees perhaps on the wing and bring in Morgan Richards at fullback. So it sounds ridiculous, but Morgan Reece is only young and he's been rehabbing all season. So this again is like, right, you need that experienced head because, if you lose Evan from it, you're playing Will. You've got a 17-year-old. You've got a back line that's 25 and under, basically, except then for your scrum half. So, yeah, it depends on who they want to go for, I guess.
Very interesting. And what did Sicky say for this game? I can't remember.
I think he went for a Bridgen 6-pointer.
He went for Bridgen. Yes, that's 100% right. I can remember him saying with quite a lot of conviction as well in his voice when he said,
I think it was a bit of revenge because Aberafon have binned off the chips because of Andrew John doesn't like the smell in the clubhouse, and then they lose to Ebervale and all of that. And Scott Delnevo was caught chatting to Ebervale people after the game. He's really in a difficult place at the moment, John, and obviously he's taking it out on Ebervale here, and said that Bridgend are going to win with 6 points. So, yeah.
This is fun. Okay, so last game to discuss might not be the game of the week that we've already kind of sorted, but I would imagine Aberafon Swansea is going to come with a lot of intensity just because what this game means for both teams. Both of them are without a win so far. Obviously, just the one game for Swansea, but when you're talking the group that you're in, this is a game that if Aberafon can nick it messes Swansea up, gives Aberafon, that chance of, a semi-final, possibly even a final, maybe even a plate. But this has got a lot riding on it, and I'm going to let you run through this because I'm undecided as it stands.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think this is what the cup should be about, is games that have a lot of meaningful rugby on them, close to call. And I'll be honest, again, do I see it as Swansea's lack of game time, similar to Quins, maybe a problem here? Aberafon are coming in battle-hardened. They've played their toughest fixtures. This is their last roll of the dice. So there's no next Saturday. Their game week effectively comes that's the best possible schedule, really. Right, your bye week is your last one, so you can play there if you want, have a rest week, etc. It's at tag, and they've been playing some pretty good rugby there. Do you know what? I'm going to disagree with Bookie and say that Aberafon are going to win this.
I've actually typed Aberafon into my predictor slot as well. As you've convinced me.
Yes,
the performance against Ebu Vale has played a fine part in that as well. To stay within 6, 31-25, that game finish, if we didn't say earlier. So it's a massive improvement, and going home, it's going to be tough. But what about Sicky? He doesn't believe in his team anymore, does he?
No, he's given up on him, Martin. Ever since they suffered that blow to Ebervale and banned chips in the clubhouse, he's not been the same man.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've heard he wants to support the Swansea Ospreys or something. It sounds really bad. I don't know what's going on with him.
He's going to support the Green Stars.
that would be funny for him to do. That would be funny. Okay, and I believe that brings us to the end of this week's podcast, my friend. So, a nice short and sharp one. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, do your thing, comment, give us something to chat about. Why not? And we look forward to doing this all again next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Super.